thank you all for joining us live. We have a lot to share with you, but we also are very excited to hear from you, get your reactions, get your questions, and invite you on this wild ride with us. Without further ado, let's kick off our inaugural town hall for the Human-Centric AI Council. Woohoo! All right, so we do have a packed agenda. As you would expect, we got a lot of work to share with you. So what we want to do first is share with you why we're here, why we specifically have gathered and have spent hours together working on some of the work you'll see today. We're going to share with you who has been a part of this effort from the start. And we're going to show you the work that we've done so far, and then we're going to wrap up with a call to action and an invitation to join the fun. Um, First and foremost, why are we here? Why did I decide to pull this group of fabulous folks together? I think that we're all experiencing it. The world is changing really fast. My job as an industry analyst is to track innovation cycles in the world of work, and I started when social and mobile and cloud were coming up, and social was cool, and mobile was interesting, cloud was pretty boring. But I have never seen anything like this wave of AI. And it's my full-time job to track this. And I know that this has become, it's exciting, but it's also extremely disruptive and a bit nerve-wracking for the folks whose day jobs are managing and leading HR and talent operations for organizations big and small. Um, we decided to bring people together to address some of this widening gap. We exist to help bring practitioners together and to lead with clarity and to create some accountability in our space and to help. It really is a mission-driven function, which you'll see. Here's what I'm tracking though. The world of work is really unclear. We do see bloat and in the vendor landscape, a lot of smart folks with interesting ideas. At the same time, we see some folks that might be acting not in the best interest of the HR organization or employees. And we also just see practitioners and leaders who need more clarity on really what matters most. There's just so much noise. And so we identified several different areas of need, a need for alignment across the ecosystem of HR and technology. We know that there is a lot of promise with these innovations, but we don't have standards for regulating use of these capabilities. Maybe we have some in one region and different in another region. It's getting really confusing. But there's also a lot of hype, and the outcomes are still unclear. And so we really wanted to make sure that we were bringing together a group that was going to help create some alignment across the board. We also don't want to be sitting on the sidelines. What I am really worried about is in the absence of an ability and clarity to take action, that AI is going to happen to us. And I know the folks that are on with me today, my steering committee, that we feel really passionately about making sure that HR and talent leaders are in the driver's seat and owning their own agenda, their own innovation agenda. And the last is that like we can't do this on our own. We've got some really, really smart folks who have said that they want to be a part of this council and that want to be a part of this work. But we also want to make sure that we ourselves are not innovating in a vacuum, that we are not coming up with best practice ideas that aren't relevant or not viable. And so we wanted to make sure that we were engaging the full ecosystem with these ideas and recommendations. And that was what helped us to think about what we wanted to do. But the real why is not the best news, unfortunately. So my job as a researcher, I study adoption of AI and new capabilities. I study how budgets are shifting and priorities are changing. And for several years, I've been studying how HR organizations are adopting and utilizing AI and maybe what's getting in the way. And year after year, the number one gap in number one obstacle to AI adoption, specifically within HR, are gaps in the HR organization's understanding of AI and automation. And this is just so interesting because it's not some of the usual suspects of obstacles like we don't have budget, we don't have support, we don't have priority, like we don't understand what our priorities are. Like those do get in the way and muddy the water some, but the number one issue is us. We just don't know enough to really lead this. And this was that like real light bulb moment for me when I thought, well, I know people who do know about AI and automation, who have successfully led transformation through different periods of change in the world of work. And who better to bring together to help us get some clear answers and better enablement and empowerment for the HR organization than your peers, your expert and experienced peers. And so the vision that we had was something that was collaborative, that was thought provoking, but in a valuable way. We wanted people who had real world practitioner experience and not just big ideas. We wanted, it takes a lot to get from idea to execution, right? And from the beginning of a project to like management of the project, we wanted folks who have been there through it all. We also wanted to make sure that we were addressing this need to meet the moment where there is most of the support we're seeing coming through is for achieving greater efficiency and productivity and scale. And we wanted to lean into what HR needs to be doing, which is ensuring that the best practices and the solutions that we design are ultimately human centric. And then last, but like really a core part of this is we wanted to make sure that what we did was accessible for everyone, that the resources that we came up with, the best practices that we create are available to everyone. That it's not something that is going to be black box, that's not going to be held just for the few, that it's available. And that is really what guided us as we started to pull this together. And this is what we came up with, the Human-Centric AI Council. And I want to give a shout out to Rachel, who you all will meet today, who helped me design our logo. But this really is what we landed on. And I've got to say, like, I'm just an ideal like guy. I'm a strategist. I do like to do research. I'm not an organizer. A professional organizer, and as many on the Steerco can attest, I'm not a project manager. So this was just an idea that we started with, and they have all breathed life into it. And by all, I mean a lot of people. A lot of people answered the call and have been a part of our founding cohort, that cohort zero. They contributed in material ways, whether it was compelling ideas, challenging conversations, material feedback, encouragement, any of the above, all of the above was present. And they're all volunteered time. I mean, I'm talking about like hours of time. They left the office and met with us at industry events and committed real time and energy into building what you're going to see today. It's extremely humbling to see this many people respond to just this idea. And it's also humbling because we're just getting started. So I want to make sure you can see who all has been a part of this founding cohort. Some people have contributed to this point and recognize that there's a lot more work than they have capacity for. So they are going to step back as we continue moving forward. But I had to put up everybody that was a part of the beginning of this because it just has been so inspiring. We also have, from the beginning, had some support of some other major key players. All of this work takes resources. Because we have underwriters, who all of you see here, that have been supporting us, we've been able to offer travel stipends to our members to come and join us in person. We've been able to pay a lawyer to create legal agreements for us. We've been able to pay designers to create resources for us. And all of this is only possible because we have vendors in the space, solution providers, community builders who know that this mission matters and that they know that this is like this approach is really important for actually advancing the entire industry forward. I have to say thank you because none of them really knew what this was going to be when they said yes. They just said that they believed in the mission and that they in the vision and they wanted to support it. And so thank you all for trusting us. I know especially these days every budget dollar is precious and you've given us resources to really do something great. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this journey from the beginning. I'm going to step back now because, believe it or not, this is not my work. This was my idea, and all of the work that we've done so far has been led by an incredible group of contributors and been organized by, managed by our steering committee. And we have each of our members joining us today. They're going to introduce themselves to you and represent some of the work we've done so far. We'll start with our mission, our values, and our operating principles. We'll talk about the pillars of human-centric AI, and then we're going to walk you through our year one priorities. What do you think? Sound good? All right. Well, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my friend Tara Torres to introduce you to our mission statement. Tara, take it away.
Thank you, Kyle. So when we first started on this journey, the mission statement was really central to the work, making sure that we were really anchored around a shared mission. And we actually spent a large portion of our in-person time, both at Transform and Unleashed, focused on refining this mission, both with members of SteerCo, extended members of our council, but also with, industry leaders, tech partners, and underwriters to really arrive at a statement that we think collectively really reflects what the heart and spirit and goal of this team is about. So just to kind of break down some of the subpoints, we really want this to be a group that brings forward discussion, tools, templates, and ideas that align and bring together industry experts, tech providers, and our stakeholders. We want to put HR in a position where they're empowered, informed, and educated, and have the resources to drive conversation with the stakeholders in their organization that then let them lead the integration and implementation of AI in a responsible way to accomplish transformation in a way that balances what the business needs and wants are with keeping core to what HR is about and being human. So really, like I said, this mission statement is one that we took many, many hours and brought together a significant number of ideas to really refine and distill this down. We think does a good job of demonstrating, who we are here to serve, and what we ultimately want to deliver and the outcomes that we're trying to drive. So with that, I will hand it over to Susan.
Thank you so much, Tara.
All
Susan.
right. Thank you, Tara. So what you see on the screen here are our values. Our values support our mission. And like Kyle and Tara mentioned, we as a team have spent a lot of time, coming together and coming up with all of this so far, right? And so our values truly are our identity and our culture. Everyone that's part of this signed an agreement. We're committed to these values, and these are the values of the council. I'm going to read each one, but I'm also going to elaborate a little bit just so you can get some further context. But the first thing we have on the list is be bold, be practical. One of the things is we want to innovate, but we also don't want to lose sight of what's practical. We know we have to stay within certain guardrails, right? Building bridges, but also closing the gap. We want to connect, but we want to strengthen partnerships between HR and technology because we need to come together throughout this mission. Be direct, be productive. We value honest collaboration, candid feedback, even to where we've gotten this far. It's been a journey, right? But we all have to do it together, and we have to have conversations. We have to be respectful with one another, but having that dialogue is key. Staying agile and staying ahead. Things are changing so quickly in this space from day to day, and you have to stay on top of what's going on. And it's important to be able to move fast with urgency, but you have to be grounded in what's practical because things are changing so quickly. You just have to stay on top of that. Champion people and pursue impact. We want to advocate for the people. Human-centric AI is what we do and is what we're trying to empower everyone so that they can have the meaningful results that they need in their business. And then lastly, what we have here is just leading with integrity. We stand for what's ethical, we stand for what's transparent, what's fair, but also avoiding bias. And that's very key in today's environment. So,
It
great.
sure is. Thank you, Susan. As you're speaking, I have to like comment like this. Nowhere here do we say be perfect and get it absolutely right. And I think that this just exhibits like the heart that we have and like the intentions that we're putting out. And it's means a lot to hear even just you speaking about how you are interpreting this. It's makes me really happy. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Kyle. All right, Alicia.
Okay.
All right, I am building on what Susan mentioned. So with our values, these are our core beliefs. And alongside of those are principles. Principles are how we translate these beliefs into actions that further create the culture and how we want to experience our work, which is so fundamental, I think, in all of our organizations. When we're looking at transformation, it's always about how do we behave? How do people experience what we're doing? And that is what we're looking at here in our operating principles. Now, AI, it's not just a tech. It is a people and organizational transformation. And that is what we are really pursuing here. And we're looking at how do we find new ways of working, not just individually, but together with each other and with technology. And these principles help us as a committee and council to get the work that's going to help you, but we also feel like these are fundamental as we move forward and create human-centric AI empowered organizations, that these are going to help us get to those goals in an ethical way. So let's take a look at some of the principles that we've come up with. First, champion human-centric AI. What is that? It's really about enhancing human potential. We want to prioritize ethics over the economics, balancing business outcomes with the human experience so that we can achieve the outcomes with people in mind. Integrate ideas, keep the door open. It's all about bringing multiple perspectives together from us practitioners across the community. We cannot innovate and move things forward without diversity of perspectives. So integrating these ideas. Designing with integrity. Integrity should be first and foremost in everything we do, and being transparent with you guys today on what we are doing and what we are building is helping us and you all with these efforts. Deliver utility and temper hype. We don't just want to be part of the hype cycle. We want to say, how do we get real value for our people, our workforce, and our organizations? And it's that conversation that we are engaging on together and with you all. Experimentation. AI is changing so rapidly that fundamentally we have to experiment. We have to learn what is working, what's not. But coming through the testing, the feedback loops is what's going to help us get to that reality of what is real, what is bringing utility. I love the fact that with this council, we're bringing together so many different people. As we have opened the doors to ourselves to have these conversations, we are using this town hall as the first to now open that door to you all to join this conversation with us. Welcome in.
Oh my God, Alicia for president. Thank you. That is so empowering, inspiring. Lydia, do you want to share with everybody our pillars here?
Yes, absolutely. So first, I want to mention all of our mission value principles that you've just heard. They sound perfect. They are absolutely wrapped up in a bow right now. But I will say a few months ago, all of us here in the steer co, as well as part of cohort zero, we were literally staring at that mural board. And I still want to go back and take a screen cap of that, just for everyone to appreciate the messiness, all of the ideation that took us here in the first place. So, onto the pillars. This is the how. This is the work that we are actually delivering and how we are translating our mission, vision, values, and principles into actual items, the tangible stuff that we can deliver to the industry. Now, this started, I will be honest, as a list of maybe 20 things. We did pare it down in the spirit of simplicity and also in the spirit that all of us have jobs on the side, and this is an entirely voluntary effort. But what we did try to do was being as holistic as possible and asking ourselves, what does the HR industry need from us right now? What do the workforce need from us? What do HR practitioners need from us? And those are fundamentally the five pillars that we have come up with. First, it's AI literacy and education, kind of grounding everyone on the same terminology, the same approach in terms of how you think and how you look at AI, as well as AI-enabled technologies. The second piece of it is around AI trust and safety. It is looking at the ethics, understanding the compliance piece of it, the regulatory aspect of it, and just the overall regulatory environment related to the tools that you're using, the tools that your organization is using, and the tools that you're possibly considering adopting for your workforce. The third piece of it, of course, is AI value realization. This is really where I call the rubber meeting the road in the sense of understanding the use cases, the value cases for AI, understanding that when a business presents you with problem A, what are some of the AI solutions that can help you address the challenges? And what are some of the actions that you should take before you say, like, aha, we're going to do AI, and that is the answer to all of this. Of course, adoption and change management is huge in this world because how we approach change and how we approach being human in an ever-changing environment is going to look a little bit different in the AI era. And last but not least, we are also very much focused on looking into the future because we know this is a evolution and it is happening incredibly fast. So it's not just about focusing on what's happening today and what has happened already, but also how can we possibly help the entire industry prepare for the future by thinking and reading into the tea leaves a little bit in terms of what are some of the things that we need to start preparing for 6 months out or 12 months out. Kyle, back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lydia. I think this next slide really shows a bit of the spirit of what you're conveying, of just how hard we've been working and how many ideas. I'm going to hand over to our friend Melissa to share a little bit more about that and some of the detail here.
Thank you, Kyle. So, like Lydia was sharing, I mean, when we first began our work with the Human-Centric AI Council, we knew we had very broad and an ambitious vision for how we could support HR in integrating AI. However, as we delved deeper into each area, it really became clear that we needed to refine our approach and we really need to focus on the areas where we could create the most impact in our first year. And that's where we came up with these five pillars and then aligned them to three objectives in each one of these pillars to really narrow and really refine what is the work that we really feel like we can do in this year one. So we identified these five key pillars that were really going to guide and ground our work. And it was starting with the foundation, which is literacy and education with AI. And we knew that we needed to lay the foundation by equipping HR professionals with the core knowledge as well as resources so that they can engage AI confidently. We then recognized the importance of AI safety and trust and safety. It goes both ways, ensuring that HR leaders have the tools to evaluate AI solutions with fairness as well as transparency. And then we realized that we needed to focus on AI value realization. And that's really helping HR articulate really AI's impact in tangible terms, driving business outcomes like experience and efficiency. And as we explored, AI adoption and change management, we really made sure that our framework includes practical roadmaps to really guide HR through the adoption process, really from pilot stage all the way to full scale implementation, really ensuring that teams are aligned and reskilled as needed. And of course, in order to stay ahead of the curve, which we are definitely going to try with the rapid change in AI every single day, even by the hour, I feel like lately, we emphasized forward thinking and future ready AI. And this is really meant to prepare HR leaders for what's next in the evolving tech landscape. So, really, by structuring our efforts around these focus pillars and these key objective areas, we're really building a comprehensive yet actionable toolkit and framework for how HR can really lead AI adoption responsibly and effectively. And don't forget, with a human-centered approach and strategy. So
I
I'll
know.
give it over to Bob.
Thanks, Melissa. I think
Yeah.
one thing you had shared there, as I transition to Bob, is focus, and I hope that everybody that's dialed in is like impressed by just how much we have accomplished already. And but major feedback that we had as we were bringing these ideas to our friends and partners in the community was, this is a lot. What specifically are we going to get done? And so, Bob, I'm going to hand it over to you to share a little bit about the priorities that we landed on for our first year.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So I think what we've seen so far, especially the focus on the pillars, you can think of the pillars as sort of individual programs and focus areas. And so where we intersect with the tangible output and some of the resources and deliverables that we're going to talk about, there are work streams that handle things from almost, you can think of that as sort of project-based work. So there's intersectionality, of course, between the programs and the projects, and that's what you're going to see over the course of the next set of slides. But just to tee that up, we talked about this AI literacy toolkit. So this is really taking best practices from all the people that have been putting out all kinds of different literacy programs, but specifically targeted for talent and HR professionals. What do we need to think about? What are the skills that we need to learn? What are the tools that we might need to learn that align with corporate, policy and the approved set of tools, so that you don't have this sort of shadow AI use? But also tying it to the second priority, you really need to think about AI literacy from a responsibility context when you talk about bias mitigation and fairness and things like that. We want people to apply their critical thinking when they're using AI and automation, so that humans are making the ultimate decisions and they can trust the output from the tools that they're using. So so underneath that, you see obviously the AI literacy and education pillar is central to the deliverable there. The second, on responsible AI transformation, we talked about this a little bit. This one actually spans both AI trust and safety and the AI adoption pillars, but technically there's a literacy component to this as well. But really, what does it mean to institute a sort of responsible AI, framework and policy? Who needs to be involved? Do we need, governance committees? Do we need ethics committee? Do we need the cognitive diversity from all the people who can sort of look at different use cases and different scenarios and different roles and really understand the implications for that, making sure that you're doing things in a fair and ethical and responsible way. The third, around solutions evaluation and design frameworks. Lydia is going to talk quite a bit about this, but certainly we want to talk about when we deliver value, when we measure what really matters, we need to understand that there's trust in our ecosystem. So what new questions should we be asking as we go to evaluate legacy vendors, the incumbents within an organization, but also as we evaluate some of these new technologies, what do we need to look out for so that we're not grabbing any shiny object that comes across our desk. And lastly, Kyle and I'll get into this a little bit later, but we want to actually publish a report that looks at not just the future of all of the other pillars, right? Like, what's the future of AI literacy? What's the future of responsible AI, et cetera? But what else should we be thinking about when we talk about human centricity, when we talk about human and AI collaboration, how AI is augmenting humans and human potential that we mentioned earlier, but we really need to think broadly about all the implications and put on our systems thinking hats and explore this. So we'll be, Kyle and I'll dive into that a little bit later.
Bob, thank you so much. I think it's like worth underlining here that each one of these projects is aligned to one of the pillars. And here on this slide, Rachel will share with us how that's working. And we're trying to integrate all these great ideas into meaningful outputs, which is a labor of love, but we are figuring it out. Right, Rachel?
It's true, Kyle. And as we're going through, I'm really reflecting about there's just such a ton of diversity and thought and experience in this team. And, we've each brought even our own industry cultures to the table. So we're still learning how to work together. But if you've ever worked in a complex and matrixed environment, you're familiar with, more traditional like program and project management models. So as we go through our work, you'll see a very similar methodology here and framework. So basically, we can also divide and conquer a ton of work. So you'll see pillar managers and work stream leaders who are working in partnership, where the managers are driving alignment across a lot of these work streams, and then the work stream leaders are laser focused on GSDing for those deliverables. So with that, I'm going to hand off to my partner in crime in AI literacy, Melissa Laswell.
Thank you, Rachel. And speaking of GSD, let's talk a little bit about that, starting with our work stream. So, hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Laswell, and I am the work stream lead for AI literacy and the education toolkit. And I am partnering closely with my co-leader, Miss Rachel Bourne, and we are focusing on the AI literacy and education body of work. So today we are extremely excited to share our focus area for the first year, which is creating and curating an HR AI literacy toolkit, which is being designed to empower HR professionals with the knowledge and tools to confidently engage in AI. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes to share a little bit more about the toolkit and how it will support the HR community and why it is so timely and why it is so important. So, as you are all aware, and you are also experiencing firsthand, AI is transforming the way we work and interact with talent. But also, as HR professionals, many of us face challenges in navigating this complex landscape. So, our purpose is to equip HR professionals with foundational knowledge and practical tools that will really help them demystify AI. The goal of this work, it's really simple. It's to help HR leaders and practitioners to really understand and leverage AI to drive people first and impactful solutions for their organizations. And there is so much content. There are so many promises of quick fixes and solutions that it is frankly so overwhelming right now. And a lot of people have no idea of where to start their learning journey. So really our year one deliverable of creating a toolkit will really help to solve for this gap that we're currently seeing and experiencing in the HR community right now. And frankly, within organizations that we're trying to help enable. So our toolkit will address the why, the what, the when, and the how of AI in HR. So we will provide an overview of AI types and capabilities in the HR space. So this includes a comprehensive AI terminology glossary, which is critical to demystifying the jargon often associated with AI technologies. We're also going to provide an FAQ guide that will answer common questions and will clear up common misconceptions around AI. So in addition to the foundational knowledge, we will explore common use cases of AI throughout the entire employee lifecycle. So from recruiting to onboarding to performance management to L&D and employee engagement. This will really give HR professionals really tangible examples of how AI is being applied today and how they can harness its power for themselves and their teams, as well as the organizations that they are supporting. So our approach to how we will deliver the learning will include a persona-based learning framework, which is really going to allow individuals to engage at their own pace and at the level of understanding that they find themselves currently today. So whether you are starting with AI or you're looking to deepen your knowledge, the content will be structured to meet you where you are on your learning journey. And that is incredibly important. So additionally, we are incorporating crowdsourced learning content and resources. And this approach will ensure that the toolkit reflects the diverse needs of HR professionals globally, allowing for a dynamic, continuous, evolving learning experience. So the HR AI literacy toolkit, I have to say that very slowly because it is a mouthful, is designed to empower HR professionals with the knowledge, confidence, and the tools. We got you. And so that they will be engaged with AI in a very practical, people-centered way. We're committed to making AI accessible, actionable, and ultimately beneficial for the future of work. And we believe that by starting with the foundational elements, that we will build a community of informed, proactive HR leaders and practitioners who are ready to shape and influence AI's role in the organizations that they support. So I'm now going to pass the call over to Rachel, who's going to take you through our program objectives for literacy and education.
That was a great overview, Melissa. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, right, beyond the year one, to talk about kind of the big picture of the AI literacy and education team. And as Melissa mentioned, still really focused on maintaining that AI knowledge, but curated specifically for the HR function. But we're going to do that still in a few unique ways. You're going to notice we're not going to build it all, right? We don't want to recreate the wheel, and there's a ton of good stuff out there. So we will curate great resources. We may build things where we have gaps just so that we can ensure that it's, relevant and digestible, particularly for you guys who are such busy professionals. We know what the workload looks like on your plates these days. Second, we're really focused on that like practicality, laser focused, in fact. So you can sit through hours of training today, but if you can't apply it in your day job tomorrow, was it really worth your time, right? Third, just as everyone has really kind of talked about the speed of digital, you're going to see modularity, agility, things that are iterative. So as AI is evolving, so are we. And what we may have in terms of the content this year may look really different from next year. And even, Melissa's team has pulled out like a number of different phasing, scaffolding, for those of you who are in L&D, but it's all by design. And then fourth, we're taking a social first approach with social media drip campaigns, basically delivering micro learnings and insights to you. So I can't go embed this in your daily flow of work through Teams or Slack. But the best we have is also your LinkedIn feed. So this will be a bit of a commercial, but if you aren't following the HCAIC on LinkedIn, even members of the community, please do that because it's going to be the best way for you to also understand how to engage, get access to the solutions that Melissa and her team are building. And then finally, we talked about community, but that means engaging in experimentation and sharing things across platforms so that we can all grow together. So if you find a wonderful resource, share it with us. Like everybody could benefit from it. And if you continue to experience knowledge gaps or you have kind of those pain points, let us know. That voice is going to be pretty important to how we build this so it's helpful for everyone. So if you haven't already, follow us on the socials, and we've got more coming soon. And then I think I'm handing off to Susan and Alicia.
Actually, Rachel, I'm going to take
Oh,
this.
Tara, sorry.
Yes, no worries, no worries. It's interesting. A couple of the Sirico here have mentioned today, like as we're hearing this play back, like we can start to see and reflect on different connections and aha moments. And I think what struck me as Rachel and Melissa were presenting is just how closely tied each of our pillars are and how they really build upon and complement each other. There are certainly going to be aspects of AI literacy that are going to feed into the responsible AI adoption and the framework for doing so, because knowledge is power. And, ultimately you want to be able to have that knowledge as a foundation because it's going to allow you to build trust. And I would say, this particular pillar and the work stream within it is really centered on how we build trust within HR and within our stakeholders that are going to be benefiting from whatever AI tools we're implementing. So this particular work stream is really going to be focused on, how do we have the knowledge and the information and frankly, the space of AI that is, probably evolving just as fast as the tech itself in terms of the, legal stipulations and requirements, and how do you stay compliant when that stuff is, literally changing by the minute. And there are so many variables that go into that. And it's not just understanding it, but then it's complying with it and being able to demonstrate your compliance with it. And so we want to bring to bear, the knowledge and the information and the tools to help you have that foundational understanding and to stay informed, frankly, as these things continue to change. So the things that are going to come out of this particular work stream are going to focus on, giving sample AI policies and making sure that those policies, reflect to the degree that the AI is going to be embedded within a workflow within an organization. So, in a more simplistic form, reducing administrative burden in some places to its most sophisticated form of potentially making decisions in the process. So we want to be able to have policies that can cover a range of different AI adoptions and how deeply you plan to embed it and use it within a function, a workflow, what have you. We want to be able to have a curated library of where to get the latest and greatest information about what's happening from a regulatory landscape around AI. And be able to use that information in the context of a toolkit and develop materials that's going to help you have knowledgeable conversations with your legal partners and your risk teams who, we talked a lot about the fact that there is a variety of risk tolerance across different types of organizations and different types of industries. And so we want this toolkit and these resources to be able to meet people where they are in either the most risk tolerant or the most risk adverse organizations and be able to speak to that in a way that's going to help build trust with partners that have to be on board with implementing AI, but also in a way that's going to make sure we're rolling this out in like a responsible way, in a way that creates transparency and trust. And that kind of leads us into the other part of our key deliverable coming out of this work stream, which is the change management guide. So, when you think about, all that goes into getting, somebody to sign off or an organization to sign off on deploying AI, you then have to make sure that the way that it is implemented in an organization maintains that trust and that transparency. And so this change management guide is really going to help bring different solutions to bear in terms of how you will responsibly implement AI in an organization. And again, taking into account the varying degrees of how organizations are and different cultures within organizations, this can all look and feel quite different. So I think everybody's done a bit of a social call to action here. And so to the extent that you've seen this done really well, we'd love to see that and be able to like model after that in some of our toolkits that we're building. If you've stumbled across resources that have been really valuable to you and keeping tabs on the regulatory environment, any and all of that information is welcomed. And then, also what your greatest needs are. We want to be able to understand that as well so that we can help bring those solutions to bear. So moving into the next slide in terms of some of our, objectives that we want to try to accomplish with this program. This kind of ties back into, some of the earlier slides, but we want to make sure that we're developing like practical standards that, can apply to a wide range of scenarios while helping drive that ethical transparency and adoption, for any type of AI deployment that you would be doing. And we want to put HR in a position where they can really be an advocate, right? Like balancing business needs, as we said in our mission statement, balancing the business needs and what we all want to try to realize in terms of efficiency and profitability with making sure we're taking care of the human element within that and whatever experience we want to deliver, especially from an HR standpoint, maintains that human element where and ever how it makes sense while still leveraging and getting the benefits of AI. We want to curate and contextualize information in a way that's going to let people be able to, again, lead informed decisions and discussions with key stakeholders and decision makers within their organization, to know what to look out for, to know how to keep a pulse on what's changing, and making sure that we're organizing and providing that information in a way that's easy to use and consumable for the average, HR practitioner. And then lastly, I touched on this a little bit already, but, any sort of change adoption, technology or otherwise, is a change cycle. And so we want to make sure that we're thinking about how we instill safety, governance, trust, transparency throughout the full cycle of change all the way from ideation to post-implementation and iteration. So hopefully, that gives you some good sense of what we're thinking of doing from an AI transformation and adoption standpoint, and look forward to your feedback on it. So with that, I'll hand it over to Lydia.
Thanks, Tara. Lydia, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tara, and thanks, Kyle. So the inside joke of the Human-Centric AI Council is that this is a left brain of Lydia versus a right brain of Lydia kind of party, because I am sitting both over the pillar and the work stream. And the reason why this was done is because both the pillar as well as the work stream are actually two sides of the same coin, if you will, when it comes to solution design as well as evaluation framework. So the reason why both of the pillar and the work stream exist is really to build that compelling human-centric case. But above and beyond the purpose statement that you are looking at on the screen right now, I really boiled down to 4 reasons as to why we're here. Number one, most of us, if not all of us, have been on the receiving end of the let's do AI statement, whereby you then pause, stare at your business leader, and wonder, what the heck are you talking about? Number two, most of us, if not all of us, have probably experienced when technology has been done to us, meaning a different function, IT or whoever else said, hey, we're going to do this thing, HR, roll with it. I trust you. And you're sitting there going like, okay, but how do we know this is actually going to work? And what problems are we actually solving here? The third reason is that when we peruse the solution provider marketplace right now, just about every solution will tell you that they have AI and they do AI. And that is incredibly true. However, there's about 10 different flavors of what that looks like and 10 different ways of how that can solve your business problem. And last but not least, again, I'm pretty sure every single one of us on the call here has sat on the receiving end of a question where someone in your finance team is looking at your proposal for a beautiful, brilliant platform and the associated workflow, and they're kind of going like, well, great, but what's the ROI on it? So from our perspective, in terms of AI solution design and evaluation, it is really kind of helping you bridge the gap of the idea of what is cool AI technology to the practical business problems that it's going to solve. And then also bridge the gap to all of the solutions that are out there and kind of help you navigate the solution provider landscape and understanding what are some of the solutions that can help you solve the problem? What are some of the augmented solutions? How can you run the market scan? How can you use a decision framework to better understand which solutions are better fitted for your needs? And most importantly, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of AI solutions post-implementation? Because way back when in the cloud world, all of us have said that implementation is really where the game actually starts. In the AI world, that is literally the most true thing that I have heard in a while, because it is the fact that you don't know the results until it's been piloted, and you don't know the entire organizational results until you have rolled that solution across the board and get individual level user feedback on it. So all said and done, the year one deliverable for both the pillar as well as the work stream is really looking at a problem definition framework, a decision framework, helping provide some guidance in terms of how do you run a market scan for solutions, help you understand a solution fit in terms of the business challenge that you're facing. Because when a business comes to you and asks the question, say, hey, I just need to do this thing faster, you don't necessarily need to give them an incredibly complex AI solution. Maybe automation will just solve that problem. So it's kind of that whole spectrum of ideas that we will be looking at. And last but not least, sharing a few sample KPIs, those dashboards, so that you can assess the solution over time and work with both your solution provider as well as your customers to help each other along the journey. If we can go on to the next slide here. So what are we doing from a program objective standpoint? So number one, it's providing that human-centric framework on how we evaluate AI and articulate ROI. Because a lot of the headline news that we have been seeing in terms of how AI is being leveraged to save costs and increase efficiency is not necessarily the most human-centered approach there is, if you will. The second objective that we have is really to curate proven AI use cases that align with different business challenges. I call it the inspiration notebook. So think of these as a curation of use cases where if you were to have a similar business problem, you can basically go back to these use cases and say like, hey, what can I do? Who else has experienced similar situations that I'm sitting through right now, and what have they done with AI solutions? The third objective we have, of course, is to create space for dialogue on people positive solution design and implementation, because regardless of where your business challenges are, they're incredibly legitimate and there are solution providers out there with the right answers for you. It's about holding that space to ensure that level of transparent dialogue happens. And of course, in terms of additional considerations, we are looking at how can you include more stakeholders in the evaluation process? Who are those stakeholders that you should include in a AI evaluation process? How can you think about budget availability amidst the entire evaluation situation? And where does your technical maturity also come into play here as well? So really, really excited to lead both the pillar and the work stream for this, and super excited for everyone here to see the outcomes of those.
I honestly can't wait. And I've got to take a moment to say how proud and, like, again, humbled I am by the leadership of everyone that is contributing to this. I hope you all can see from literacy to transformation to solution that we are trying to create very comprehensive, very material resources for you. The other program that we have, though, that I'm excited to be leading because it leans into my work as a research analyst, is a report on how AI is reshaping HR. Bob and I are partnering together on this, and we are thinking about how can we, while this team is blocking and tackling like what we need to do right now, we can take a peek around the corner and see what's coming, what we need to be getting ready for. This is a future deliverable. This literally will be a report on how AI is shaping our space. We see AI everywhere else, but who better to assess and analyze the impact it's having on our functions, on our operating models, on our roles than us? And I'm really looking forward to working on this. This is my bread and butter, doing industry research. And I'm excited to have Bob partnering with me to deliver it. A couple of things are in scope. We want to look at workforce trends that are specifically influenced by the proliferation of AI. We want to see how team structures and operating models are evolving and emerging. We want to look at where we're being augmented, where we're automating, and where we're reskilling. And you can read the rest of the slide. I do want to keep moving forward since we are a little tight on time, and I want Bob to be able to share his vision. Bob, I'm going to click over to your slide now if you want to jump in.
Thanks, Kyle. So yeah, just hit on a couple of these key program objectives and where we think this is going. But certainly we want to understand what emerging trends are shaping this future and how we can, embrace them. Are these the right trends? Or do they have longevity? Is this something that is just sort of a hiccup? This isn't a skill you need to focus on long term. Whatever those issues are, we want to make sure we understand the implications of those trends across people, process, technology, and data. The second objective around the dialogue. So Kyle and I envision having expert panels and collaborative sessions where we hear from cross-discipline experts, so we understand the implications again across people, processes, behavior, and that's going to be people in HR, people in IT, people in lines of business, people in education, people in AI ethics. There's a whole spectrum of expertise that we want to make sure we're. And then the third is how do we proactively plan and experiment in a safe environment for some of the adoption and literacy and all these other things that we've been talking about. But as we're tomorrow's August, right? We're going to be in strategic planning season soon, and we need people to understand the implications of all of this as they go into fourth quarter and 2026. As far as additional considerations, there's a lot, as much as we're covering in these pillars and these work streams, there's other future work related, implications that we need to think about. What's the future of our build versus buy versus bot decisions? What's the future of strategic workforce planning? What are the things that we need to think about as we move forward in this human plus AI future, such that AI is enhancing human potential, as we've mentioned a couple times now. But how do we really think about how this moves forward in a constructive direction, so that we're making fair decisions, we're innovating responsibly, and we're really thinking about the implications of how we drive a constructive and fair and ethical future. So I'm really excited to work with Kyle on this. I get to put my analyst hat back on, as well as my amateur futurist hat on. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Lots of hats. I think we're gonna need to get council hats for everybody because of how many we're gonna wear. Um, I think one part of the message that we want to make sure we convey today is that we are just getting started. All of the work that you have seen us present today has been derived from the efforts and contributions of our founding cohort, Cohort Zero. But the work is really just getting started. And so we want to put out a call to action and invite senior practitioners in HR and talent, learning. I saw somebody saying that they have experience in learning, who have experience hands-on with tech and transformation projects that can contribute to this effort in a meaningful way. We really need doers. We need people to help us execute on this vision. And so this is an open invitation. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a form where you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're interested in contributing, and we will be in touch in the coming weeks to see if it's a fit. But if you are interested, please reach out. We would love to talk. And if there are any solution providers on the call, we are also constantly looking for more resources. So please do let us know if you'd be interested in some information on being an underwriter. There were a lot of questions that came in throughout, and I just have to thank you all for being so conversational. I don't know why I couldn't turn on a chat feature for this, but there were some really interesting questions that came through. A couple of them were just like, do we get the slides? Yes, all of these resources, everything we produce is available. So everyone will get the recording and as well as the slides from today's presentation. And there will be a link if you want to share it out as well. But there were also just some really cool ideas along the way about creating a certification for solution providers and for practitioners. There are a lot of ideas. We welcome them all. If you think that you might be able to contribute or you're just interested in it, use the QR code or go to Kyle and Co. and you can see that. You can click on it on the form to participate. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting ideas. David, I see your question coming or your idea here too about pulling market data around expectations. That sounds like an opportunity for us to co-innovate with a solution provider. I don't have access to that data, but I think you might know somebody over at Talent Neuron, maybe. But yeah, this is going to be a monster effort. We need all the help that we can get, and we welcome you to contribute. You'll have links here that you can click on to connect with us on LinkedIn, to go to the website and learn more. But I do want to put a little flag in the ground. We will be having our next public town hall meeting in 2 months on September 25th. And then you're going to get to see all the work that Ramel has done. That's Rachel and Melissa in the AI literacy toolkits. We'll start showing you right away the work that we're producing. It's not just big ideas right now. Thank you so much, Steerco. You guys are absolutely amazing. I had goosebumps. I teared up a little bit. I so appreciate your passion and expertise. To all of our cohort members who are on the call, Allie, Kelly, Dustin, I saw you guys on here. Thank you for contributing so much time and energy and ideas to this. And to our underwriters, thank you so much for making this possible. We would not be able to do this without your support. We look forward to connecting with you all going forward. I cannot wait to be in touch. Maybe we'll see you presenting on the next town hall. Until then, this is Kyle signing off. Thank you guys.